Anime in the 90s versus anime in 2020. Let me preface everything we're going to be talking about in this video with one statement. Anime, as an entertainment medium, has tremendously improved in the past 3 decades. Back in the 90s, it used to be some niche entertainment, and yet now it is globally celebrated medium that grows by leaps and bounds with each passing year. People used to look down on anime fans in the past, but nobody cares because everyone is an anime fan. I recently made a video titled, "Is Anime Dead?" Of course, as you can expect, it was mostly me debunking that statement instead of the other way around. Well, of course, you can expect this one to be a follow-up video on that topic, because what we're going to do here is a comparison of what anime used to be in the 90s versus what it's like now in the 2020s. Though first, let's talk about why people think old anime is better than new anime. Funny how it's because people compared the gold of those days with the mediocrity of today, which is why they get disappointed. But there is obviously some truth to why people think this way. Back in the 90s, the art style was so much more varied. This is why all the classics that we talk about today look different from each other, be it Cowboy Bebop or Samurai Champloo or Ghost in the Shell. These animes have a distinct art style and very nuanced characters. The humor is surprisingly refreshing as well, and they don't pander to the cliches because most of the cliches we see in the modern day anime hadn't been established yet. Same goes for the fan service. I don't think any of us would deny that the fan service in older anime hits better than the ones in modern day anime. Just go and watch Black Lagoon or Sailor Moon. It's moderate and spicy, yet also not in your face. But then again, all of these so-called classics are gems of the 90s, which means they are the only animes that are still remembered. Nobody remembers the mediocre or generic shows from the 90s because they weren't memorable. Only the series that are memorable are remembered. Now, compare that with the modern day mediocre anime series. The fan service and the cliches are blown out of proportion. The humor is too repetitive, the art style is generic, and the plot lines are too formulaic. This is why people started saying the old animes are better than new animes. It's only because now we're getting more of the generic mediocre shows than before. However, most anime fans don't watch every anime that comes out each season. No, they only stick to a few shows that everyone is still talking about, which then takes us to a somewhat complicated situation. Yes, things like only one 12-episode long season of an anime that never gets a sequel kind of ruins people's time investment. It's 2023 and there is still no second season of No Game No Life. But if you look at animes from the 90s, it was totally normal for a show to end at random episode numbers. This trend continued throughout the 2000s because Death Note had only one 37-episode long installment rather than 3 courses of animes. Contrast that with how they are milking Attack on Titan's final season, and suddenly it makes sense how the anime medium is way more formulaic and business orientated than it used to be. If One Piece came out in today's day and age, we'll be getting 24 episode long seasons instead of 1,000s of episode long behemoth it is today. Some fans may argue that it'd be better for One Piece's pacing. They would be right. But it's also true that it would take even more years for it to tell the story. Which one would you pick? A 24 episode long season every 3 or 4 years, or 1 episode every week? The average fan would pick the latter. Then again, this is just a byproduct of living in a progressive economy. Back then, even if the budget was limited, a great amount of effort was put into maintaining the individualistic, artistic identity of the show. At least that was for the case of the anime series that went on to be remembered as timeless classics. And anyways, what does it say about the actual content of the stories? Can a comparison be made here? As time passes by, it continues to get harder and harder for creators to explore new ideas that haven't been explored before. The thematic storytelling has definitely evolved, as you can see with how Chainsaw Man is so different from the battle shonen that came out in the 90s or early 2000s. You know why Jujutsu Kaisen blew up? It's because it actually gives attention to the female characters and doesn't just make them all about fan service. The level of effort that was put into animating Demon Slayer was so extraordinary that you don't have to have like the plot to enjoy the story, honestly. Seriously, it is good enough to impress even the most cynical viewer. Overall, the storytelling and animation standards have clearly evolved. The average anime of today and the average anime of the 90s may both be generic, but we can't ignore that there are gems in every age. Death Note, Monster, Code Geass, Steins Gate, Gintama, the Monogatari series, all of these came out in the 2000s and we still put just as much respect on their name as the classics from the 90s. Now, in the case of the 2020s, Korean manhwas, or should I say webtoons, have also started getting anime adaptations. In case you don't know yet, Solo Leveling is also getting an anime adaptation and it is coming out sometime this year. That's right, now that the anime medium has become this globalized, there is no limit to what can and cannot be adapted. Rather than wondering about how grass could used to be greener in the past, we should be looking forward to how it is going to progress from here on out. There are so many brilliant mangas just waiting to be adapted. Things were still raw and fresh in the 90s. It's called the golden age of anime because the industry had finally developed its roots. And for what it's worth, there were way less censorship, like so much less. Now, you can't do much without stirring chaos on Twitter, and it could hold back the average creator. I'd sum it up all like this. People generally like to give more importance to the stuff that came out in the 90s. It doesn't just have to be anime, it could also be movies or TV shows. Why do you think that is? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. I want you guys to complete this video by stating your opinions. As always, a like and subscribe will be most welcome, and if you're feeling particularly giddy regarding what we talked about in this video, that super thanks button is always ready to be pressed by you at any moment now. Yup, any and all support is genuinely appreciated. And with that said, I'll see you guys on my next video.